On today's show, we've got breaking news, our immediate reaction following the Ottawa Senators signing Fabian Zetterlund to a 3-year extension.
And we continue our 2025 NHL Draft Rankings with 3 prospect profiles, including the hardest worker in the draft.
This is Brady Martin, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Thursday, June 19th, and Pilsy, it started last night. Puckpedia saying the Sens were closing in on an extension with Fabian Zetterlund, and now the pending restricted free agent is locked up to a 3-year contract that will pay him $4.275 million against the cap.
Yeah, nice bit of news here, especially before we started recording, Ross. Thank you, Steve Stais, for getting that done in a timely fashion so we can talk about it on today's show. But initial thoughts for me, Ross, is I like this deal. And I think it's going to take some time for everybody. Not saying that this is a glaring contract for that, but it's going to take some time for everyone to adjust what new contracts will look like with the cap going up so dramatically. I think maybe Sens fans that take a look at Fabian Zetterlund's stats with the Ottawa Senators, 20 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, and no points at all in 6 playoff games, maybe are like, okay, that seems like a bit of an overpayment, but you got to take a look at the type of player Zetterlund is and what he's been able to produce in the past when he's been in a consistent top 6 role, which I think he will be moving forward with the Sens. I think this is a good deal by Steve Stais, and it's important to note there is no trade protection at all. So that has a impact on what the AAV will be. And it brings him 1 year it buys up 1 year of UFA years.
Yeah, we said in our projection a couple weeks ago, you just couldn't give him a 2-year contract and walk him right to free agency. You mentioned maybe arbitration would be a direction you'd hope to go if you couldn't agree on the number. But this way, there's less stress, less preparation, and less animosity having to go through that process with a guy you clearly like. You basically gave up 2 second-round picks for him when you think about Ostapchuk being a second-round pick that you've developed over the course of the last couple of years in Belleville. So I like this move. I don't love it at what we've seen from Zetterlund. He's obviously going to have to produce more on the score sheet. However, there were a number of nights where we're like, man, Zetterlund looked good out there. He just could not buy a goal. So he's going to have to get goals because he's been bought at a contract that is going to pay him to be a 20-goal scorer. The way things have been going in the NHL, it's more or less a bit more than $1 million for every 10 points that you contribute. Look at Michael Amadio, a perfect example of that last year, signing for 2.6, and I think he's hit 26 points in 3 straight years in the National Hockey League. But now with the cap going up, there was a tweet yesterday, I think it was Jay Fresh Hockey who posted it when the Trent Frederick rumors started coming about, which is a wild contract. It's expected to be 8 years for that. But a $4 million contract on last year's cap. Next year, that's the equivalent of 3.7. The year following, 3.4. And the year following that, 3.1. Because the cap is already guaranteed to go up over the course of the next 3 seasons. So in the numbers that you've seen in the past, this is about an equivalent of a $3.6 million contract. I'm not a math guy. I could be a little off on that, but you're still expecting this to be something that isn't grown into in 2 or 3 years. You're expecting this to look good right away. If you're the Ottawa Senators, you kind of need it to. The big question for me is, where does this place Fabian Zetterlund in the lineup? And we're going to get to that in a minute, but let's look at the entire body of work of Fabian Zetterlund last season. It was one of those rare occasions where a player plays more than the maximum 82 games because of the trade. He played 84 total games in the regular season, had 19 goals, 22 assists, 154 hits, 181 shots on goal, and averaged just under 16 and a half minutes a game. When he got to Ottawa, it was a strange beginning, playing on the 4th line, playing alongside maybe lesser skilled players, playing under 12 minutes a night. And then when Brady Tkachuk got hurt, all of a sudden he's finding himself up there on the top line and then kind of bounced around in a top 6 role, but then sometimes playing on the 4th line because Ottawa obviously didn't want to touch that Pinto, Gregg, and Amadio line. So my hope for Fabian Zetterlund is that he has a true home to start next season. But where should that be, Pillsy? Are you comfortable with him playing right wing on the top line, or do you see him more as a left winger where he has played a fair share, but a right shot, kind of that off-wing shooter mentality on a line with potentially Dylan Cousins and Drake Batherson?
I'm comfortable with either, Ross. I think either he's going to be that right winger with Brady and Timmy, or he's going to be the left winger on the second line with Cousins and Batherson. I actually love the idea of him being on the left side, especially as a shooter. We know Russian snipers love to be on their off wing so that they have a little bit more of a strong opportunity to get that shot off. But he has to be a top 6 guy. No matter where you put him, left wing, right wing, first line, second line, he has to be a top 6 guy. That's why you acquired him. So I want to see that. And I want to see some consistency. I don't want to see him moved around too much because I think if he's going to have success, he's going to need some stability. And that's probably why he was interested in a 3-year deal with the Ottawa Senators. And just quickly, before we get more into his game, I want to talk about maybe something that will ease people a little bit more is, and I've talked about this before, and it's kind of been a new conversation, is we have to start getting into the idea and being more comfortable with talking about cap percentage rather than actual dollars, because it messes with your mind trying to convert, like you said, the JFresh model where like, oh, this would be about this much dollars in 2 years ago salary cap or whatever. Our guy Eric on Twitter actually did the math. I'm hoping his math is right. But this year that cap hit would be 4.48%. Next year, 4.11, and then in 3 years, the final year of his deal, 3.77 if the cap goes up like it's projected to. So it's kind of annoying, but I think we're going to have to convert the way we talk about contracts, not talking about dollar amounts and talking about cap percentage.
I need more numbers in hockey. That's just what hockey needs.
Well, I mean, essentially, it's the same amount of numbers. You're just talking about percentages instead of millions of dollars.
But the percentage is going to change every year. I don't like change.
Well, then you're going to have a hard time understanding what good contract value is moving forward with how much the cap goes up. That's what I'm saying, is we're going to have to find a way to convert our thoughts in the way we talk about it to percentage. That's the only way we're going to be able to make sense of it.
Fair. And here's our elite prospects breakdown, and something that's really important to note if you're looking for a reason why Fabian Zetterlund can bounce back after struggling in Ottawa. Only 2 goals, 5 points in 20 games, no points in 6 playoff games. But I always have to add the caveat that Jake Sanderson doesn't score that OT goal to extend the series in Game 4 if Zetterlund isn't in front of the net screening Anthony Stolarz. But
and don't forget about Stolar's 45-inch wide tape job that stopped one of Zetterlund's shots. We can't forget about that, Ross.
True. We also can't forget about the fact that Timo Meier being traded from San Jose to New Jersey saw Zetterlund in that package going the other way, and he struggled when he got to San Jose as well. 0 goals in 22 games, 3 assists in that span, and then he bounced back the next season with 24 goals in 82 games. So he has done this before, struggling to adjust in a midseason trade. Fabian Zetterlund needs a great summer, an even better training camp, and we'll see how he fits in to the Senators' plans going forward. But this is good news for cost certainty with the Senators going into the busiest time of the offseason. They have to know what the plan is with Claude Giroux, although we've been not privy to any of that. Bruce Garriock, in an article recently, said that despite there being a gap to bridge, both sides are still calling one another every couple days. Hey, can we do this? What do you think about that? Time's ticking, though, as we're getting close to the NHL draft. We're getting close to free agency. So we're going to see how everything fits in. But we've got an updated look at our depth chart here for the Ottawa Senators. And we've put Zetterlund in that second slot on the left side just to show Giroux a little respect, keeping him as a second-line player on the right wing. I think that's where ultimately, if he does come back, you would like to see Giroux. Giroux's a UFA. Gaudette's a UFA. Cousins is a UFA. Nick Cousins, of course. And the back end, is all settled. You've got your 2 RFA contracts done with Clevin and Matin Palo. Senators do still need a backup goalie. Anton Forsberg is an unrestricted free agent. So after the signing of Fabian Zetterlund, the Senators have $10.75 million in cap space to fill 4 roster spots, and that would be with a minimum roster. So you'd usually like to add $2 to $2.5 million in flexibility there. If you're adding 2 minor contracts, like league minimum contracts to that, that's $1.5 million there to carry an extra forward and an extra defenseman, which most teams like to do, especially when they're going out on the road. So let's say, for argument's sake, you've got about $8.5 million to fill these 4 spots. Does that change how you think the negotiations would go with Claude Giroux, or you think they just have a number that would fit into this and you're just going to fill out the 4th line with some league minimum contracts? And that could include as well Stephen Halliday or a guy from Belleville making the team out of camp.
Yeah, I don't know how much effect it has on Giroux. For me, Giroux is almost like it's a mutual agreement that's going to determine that, not so much how much cap space is left over or anything like that. It's about finding the right respect meter for Giroux and him giving in a little bit to try to help this team. I'm backing off on my priority of finding a top 6 winger, Ross. I think I'm expecting Giroux to come back, and I think the top 6 will be what we have here. Maybe not the lineups that we have, but those will be the top 6 players. So the Sens aren't going to be able to find a way to find another top 6 guy, in my opinion. And I just think they're going to get outbid and in free agency. And if they try to make trades, they don't have the capital to outbid other teams that want guys. So they're in tough there. I just want this Giroux deal to be done, Ross, because Bruce Garriock's article talking about how some league executives have said he might be interested to going to Montreal just makes me sick.
Ugh, gross. But look, there's still cap space to be had. They're not among the league leaders, obviously, in NHL's most cap space available. Not even close, but they're also not on the other end of the spectrum like the Dallas Stars, who have $455,000 in cap space with still 3 players left to sign to just hit the minimum of that. However, the Senators are in the top tier of teams that have spent the most money already this summer. Only Vegas, Washington, Montreal, St. Louis, Tampa, Colorado, and Dallas have less cap space right now than the Ottawa Senators. So could a buyout be an option? I'm going to ask Pilsy quickly about that after a quick break. We're also going to look at what work Steve Staios has left to do as the week is rolling on here, man. Already Thursday. We're a week and 1 day away from the NHL draft. Our mock draft is still live. You can check that out on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. We want to know how you feel about the Fabian Zetterlund contract. More on the other side. You're listening to Locked On Senators. It's your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. You guys know that Wonderful Pistachios is our pistachio brand. They're delicious and nutritious. Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. They're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the salt and pepper flavor, the light purple bag. Ross likes the lightly salted flavor, but if you don't want to deal with those shells, get the no shells variety. Perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether you're snacking at your desk during the podcast, on a road trip to Ottawa, or you just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to snack. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends over at Farm to Fork. You want to celebrate the Fabian Zetterlund signing? How about with a little meat on the grill? Go check out our friends over at farm2forkdelivery.ca. That's the number 2, farm2forkdelivery.ca. You'll taste the farm to fork difference. No hormones, no antibiotics. It is all natural and all local products. Be Canadian, buy Canadian over at Farm to Fork. They've also got their store that you can go check out. Go say hi to Derek. Awesome dude. And he's got you all hooked up with the best meats in the world. Yes, he's at 1570 Carling Avenue, right near the Queensway. There's no excuse not to get into the store and say, what up? But online, they've got all sorts of deals. You can check them out right now. 10 pounds of chicken breast for $109, and each one is individually vacuum sealed. So when you're pulling them out of the freezer, just take out what you need that day. It is the best way to be prepared, whether you're having buddies over, last minute, bang, don't worry, I'll throw it on the grill. I got the best meat around. Or if you just want a meal prep, you don't want to be going to the grocery store, getting that overpaid, hormone-fueled meats. You want to make sure that you're eating fresh and eating delicious food. These are hand-cut and then frozen, bang, flash frozen right at the butcher's table. All sorts of specials on their website right now. I'm going to Ottawa soon. I've already told my parents, I said, get me that grass-fed ribeye special. I'm going to be crushing that later this summer. And you can too, because you're a listener of Locked On Senators. Use code LOCKEDON40 at checkout online and get $40 off your first order. That's Farm to Fork. Taste the Farm to Fork difference. You will never go back to grocery store meats. That's Farm to Fork, the Canadian answer for the best meats around. All right, Pillsy. So, as the Florida Panthers continue to celebrate their Stanley Cup victory, the NHL calendar rolls on. We've seen a couple other signings, including #Sens Abroad, Matt Duchene with the Dallas Stars, 4-year contract at $4.5 million AAV. Must be nice to get a guy who's getting paid $6.5 million next season by another team, but going to Fabian Zetterlund and how he fits in, the way we pulled up our depth chart, Billsy, David Perron was the third line right winger making $4 million. And I'm going to go out and say it, I don't think he fits on a checking line necessarily. So what do you do with David Perron? The NHL buyout window does open today.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Ross, because I don't see a world where Travis Green breaks up the checking line of Greg Pinto Amadio. Like, that line is just so effective, and that's what Amadio was brought in to do. But then what? You got David Perron making $4 million on your fourth line, playing 8 to 10 minutes a night. Like, that's not an effective use of that money or David Perron's talent. I still think David Perron's got some jam. And when he kind of figured things out and recovered from that back injury and got settled in Ottawa, he actually turned into a nice player. So I think we can get in more in depth into the buyout conversation in later episodes. We got 3 prospect profiles of exciting players to cover. But yeah, David Perron's fitting into this roster is certainly a question mark. I'll say that.
And it's one of those points where when you spend in free agency, you got to give that extra year of term.
Probably.
Or you got to give a little bit more. And now you're in a second year of David Perron. You're like, hey, like, I get what he brings. I like it. But if you're getting better next season, where does he fit in the roster? That's a question Steve Staios and Sens management is going to have to answer. Looks like they've been very occupied with restricted free agents as we pull up our graphic for the Senators free agents overall. They've made 4 signings so far this offseason. All of them RFAs. Fabian Zetterlund, Tyler Clevin, Nicholas Matin-Paolo, and Lassie Thompson. The only unrestricted free agent news is the absolute earth-shattering news that Philip Roos is signing back in Europe. So no unrestricted free agents have been signed by the Ottawa Senators. We'll see what's next for Steve Staios. Of course, Sens fans thinking about what a Claude Giroux extension would look like. Lots of talk about whether Levi Merilainen will get a one-way contract and be that cheap, cost-certain backup goalie for the Ottawa Senators. Depth would then be an issue there if you're looking beyond Levi Merilainen. So lots of work to do for Steve Staios still, but a good piece of business taken care of this morning with Fabian Zetterlund.
And Ross, it's interesting to see that Steve Staios has prioritized signing RFAs instead of UFAs. And that just got me thinking, Do you think that was done because of the looming threat of offer sheets? Like, look at a guy like Clevin, a guy like Martin Palo. I don't know what Zetterlund, if there would be interest to try to snatch him, but guys at lower amounts where you could offer them under the 1.5 no compensation amount. Maybe that played a factor into Steve Staios being like, let's just get those guys done, so we're not even considering worrying about that aspect.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what all shakes out. I'm sure Steve Staios will speak to the media either around the draft or around free agency. He did, by the way, put out a quick comment on the Zetterlund signing. Quote, "We were pleased to acquire Fabian at the deadline last year and very happy to extend him for 3 more years. He brings commitment and work ethic with a scoring touch to our group." So there you have it with the Fabian Zetterlund contract extension and lots more to come for the Ottawa Senators this offseason. All right, coming in at number 9 on the Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings. This guy has been climbing and climbing and climbing almost every draft board in the public sphere. From the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, it's Brady Martin.
Whew, I'm excited that we got to this player, Ross. Probably the biggest riser in draft rankings, and for a good reason. I think people watched Conn Smythe winner Sam Bennett's game in the playoffs, and lots of scouts, including EP, have him shades of Sam Bennett, and that's for a good reason. This guy is an absolute workhorse, but don't just think that he's just all work and no talent. This guy can put up some big points too. With the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds last season in 57 games, 33 goals, 39 assists, 72 points in 57 games, plus 25. And then in the playoffs, he had 4 points in 5 playoff games. He wore an A with the Greyhounds and also wore an A with Canada's U18 team, where he put up points again, 11 points in 7 games.
He has a bit of everything that NHL teams desire, which is why he's going to go higher than our ranking here at 9th overall. But where does he come in here? 9th overall on our list. It's because especially Craig Button, extremely high on Brady Martin. We've got a 6th overall ranking for Craig Button. Locked On NHL Prospects has Brady Martin at 8th overall. Then we've got a few 10s. Scott Wheeler, Corey Pronman, and McKean's Hockey. Then you've got Elite Prospects at 12. And again, Bob McKenzie, this is his midterm ranking, 13th. We'll see next Monday where Bob McKenzie has him in his final rankings ahead of the draft. Brady Martin turned 18 years old in March. He's 6 feet tall, 186 pounds, a right shot centerman, and the points came easy for him this year. 72 of them in 57 games. He was a plus 25. 11 points in 7 games at the World Under 18s. But the biggest part of his game is the physicality. EP calls him a freight train, one of the hardest hitters in the draft. And he's also got a well-roundedness, Scott Wheeler says, to his game that's going to make him a versatile addition to any NHL prospect pool.
Ross, what the kind of storyline about Brady Martin? This is a farm boy with farm boy strength from Elmira, Ontario. Now, that's a small town in Ontario, near my neck of the woods where I grew up. And this is the type of town, Ross. I actually worked there for about 2 years in a factory making seats for Lexus cars at a Toyota factory to help pay for my college at the College of Sports Media. Blue collar guy here. But this is the type of town where you go to the grocery store and there is a large section of the parking lot is available for horses.
Nice.
Lots of people riding their horses into town, and you got to park your horse somewhere. And that's the style of area that this is. And if you go check out Scott Wheeler's feature on him in The Athletic, it's fascinating because this isn't a guy that hired fancy trainers in the city, although he did work with Matt Nickel, someone we're obviously very familiar with the Ottawa Senators. But he got his strength from doing chores early in the morning. I believe Matt Nickel even showed him, hey, I had Matt Sundin running up and down this big hill. And so what did his mom do? His mom brought out the backhoe and built a hill, just made a hill. They didn't have a hill that was sufficient size to do the workouts they wanted. So they just made a hill for them to run up and down. They would tie a rope to a tree and climb it. Like, this guy's not going to Planet Fitness and working on the Peloton, Ross. He's doing the outdoor exercises, and he's not going to be at the draft because there's work to do on the farm. And that's the kind of mentality he has. And I love one of the quotes in the feature is, he says, during COVID, not a lot to do, so I bought myself a couple extra cows to keep myself busy. Like, that's a good mentality, and just salt of the earth guy that has that strength, brings that farm boy workmanship to his game on the ice, and he's a relentless forechecker. He hits hard, and the key thing too, Ross, is he's this physical without being dirty. He plays a clean game, and then being able to put up points like this, he's got a heavy wrist shot that he's confident in. He's got a blast of a one-timer. He's able to set guys up. Like, this is the prototype player in today's game where you see in the playoffs, and you're highlighting him every single night. If you're a team that thinks you're going to be ready to compete in the playoffs in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, like in that window, this is a guy you're targeting. And I think there's a reason why he might go as high as 4th overall to the Utah Mammoth.
This scout poll for Elite Prospect not only calls him the hardest hitter, but the best power forward in this draft class. So that has a ton of value in and of itself. But to me, the ironic part that he plays for the Greyhounds is he's not slow, but the skating is something that needs to improve for him to reach his full potential. Now, I think the way he's tracking right now, he's still going to be a great middle 6 option down the middle. But if he wants his career to take off and be a top 6, contributing in all areas of the game centerman, that's the one area where it's like, okay, let's see you get a little bit, not necessarily even faster, but just like the edges and getting back quickly, that sort of thing. I think that's the one thing that's holding him back from being a guaranteed top 5 pick. But I still think that he's going to go in the top 5 because teams are coming off watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. And this is the exact type of player you want when you're going into battle in the playoffs. He's a player I'd love Ottawa to get. Very unlikely, but how many Sens stars do you have for Brady Martin?
Yeah, Ross, if Ottawa's going to get him, they're going to have to either hope Utah doesn't draft him and hope Philly and Boston will draft. There's not a chance at all, in my opinion, that he gets past Boston at 7.
No.
Look, I know I gave him 5 stars. I know typically I go 4.5 stars because the Sens can't get him, and they cannot get him. But this is a 5-star player. I like everything about his game. I know you mentioned the skating, but that doesn't bother me. Look at Mark Stone. Mark Stone is not a good skater. Even I would say he's not even less than an average skater. You might even say Mark Stone is, I don't want to say he's a bad skater, but like skating is just not a part of his game, and that's fine. There's some guys where you don't need to be a skater because all your other skills are so good, and that's Brady Martin for me. I'm so jealous another team is going to have the opportunity to draft this guy. I just hope, Ross, that it's the Utah Mammoth, because I don't want to see him in Boston. I don't want to see him in Philly. Keep him out of the Eastern Conference, please.
Yes, we got enough dogs in the Eastern Conference. Some of the industry chatter in the EP draft guide is unreal. One NHL scout calls him a consummate two-way performer with hard skill, relentless work ethic, who plays his best in tougher games. Another one, he's not just the best hitter in junior. He'd be one of the best hitters in the NHL right now. Crazy. And he turned 18 in March.
Ross, I get a bit of shades of Mason McTavish with less skill, but that style of guy where he's already got that pro frame. You know, he's got the right work ethic. So that's why it's not crazy at all for him to go 4th. I don't think there's a chance he goes, obviously not 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. I don't see any of those teams being ready to get a guy like that. But 4th is where it starts the conversation for him.
Okay, we'll find out. But with an average rank of 9.86, Brady Martin comes in at 9th overall on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings. You can find all of our prospect profiles, 50 of them, available on YouTube. On the other side, we are continuing our countdown. We've got more skill, if you can believe it, coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. right, Pillsy. Just want to remind everyone that you can find us free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. A like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Shout out to the everydayers who make us your first listen each and every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. Coming in at number 8 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings, I'm getting flashbacks from 2021 when we were watching this young kid, William Eklund, coming into his own. He ends up going 7th overall to the San Jose Sharks. Well, now we're covering his brother, Victor Eklund, who also has a ton of skill and a relentless motor.
Yeah, it's funny to go from Brady Martin, Ross, to Victor Eklund, because Martin's that big farm boy strong, whereas Victor Eklund is that smaller statured, I don't know, like a honey badger type guy. Like, he may not be the biggest guy, but he has no fear going into those battles. And he had to go into those battles up against men last year with Djurgården in the Hockey Allsvenskan League, Sweden's second-tier league under the SHL, in 42 games, 19 goals, 12 assists, good for 31 points, finished a plus 16. And then in the qualification playoffs, in 16 games, he had 7 points. He helped lead Djurgården back into the SHL. They'll be playing there next year. Maybe he'll be along with them, most likely. And then in the World Juniors, he had 6 points in 7 games. So the fact that he's had all this experience already in the Allsvenskan League and was able to produce and was able to be a guy that the coaching staff felt comfortable giving good minutes to. He wasn't a guy that was just on the team and played like 7 seconds a night like some of these Swedish prospects end up doing, or European prospects, is very impressive, and scouts definitely took notice of that.
They certainly did, and I think where you're looking at Victor Eklund is a guy who brings the skill, but that's not all. I think he could easily be a third-line guy to start his NHL career and thrive in that type of role. How rare is it, too, that multiple draft eligible top 10, top 12 picks are on the same team at the pro level this young? We're going to get to Anton Frundell, his teammate with Djurgården, a little bit later on in the week. But Victor Eklund, although 5'11" and 169 pounds, he's also one of the older players in this draft, turned 18 in October. Classic European, I'll say European, even though it's usually the Russians, but a left winger, but a right shot guy. And 31 points in 42 games is pretty sick playing against men. In the World Juniors against his own age group, not old, 6 points in 7 games there. He, to me, is one of the players with the closest range that we've seen so far. Locked On NHL Prospects has him at 6th overall. Then 8s are wild. Crazy 8s, you could even say. Bob McKenzie, Scott Wheeler, Corey Pronman, and McKean's Hockey all at 8th on their rankings. Elite Prospects at 9, and Craig Button at 10. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say he goes between 8 and 10, maybe even 11, but he's not. This isn't the type of guy that's going to fall in the draft. I think he's going to be very well received by scouts at the National Hockey League level.
Yeah, I got him as a top 10 guy, Ross. I think probably 9 or 10, maybe Buffalo or Anaheim would look at him. Maybe he could get to Pittsburgh at 11, but I like this player. Like we talked about the relentless forecheck. EP calls him one of the best forecheckers in the draft class. They mentioned how he loves to play below the goal line and has good vision to set guys up. He's got a nice shot. And yeah, the fact that he's been able to produce at this pace up against men in the Allsvenskan League is impressive. So I think if you're a team looking for a bit higher of compete level and someone that maybe you're not banking on the elite upside of skill, you're rather looking at the compete level, Eklund makes a lot of sense.
And you're probably looking at a team that has stars already, and this guy could be like a complementary piece on a line. Like you mentioned Pittsburgh, so you could see him playing with Crosby, right? Like the kind of guy who can play off of elite work ethic and elite hockey IQ players and not look out of place. So I really like Victor Eklund. They call him on Elite Prospects the player with the second best motor and the third best transitional forward. They're shades of too. I mean, if he gets to Seth Jarvis or Travis Konechny level, that's a hell of a player that you're adding in to your lineup. So he's got that nice mix, that smooth skill, that work ethic, and a relentless forecheck. Big fan of Victor Eklund with an average ranking of 8.14. He comes in 8th overall in our Locked On Senators draft rankings. Pillsy, your Sens stars for Victor Eklund?
I give him 4.5. Like this player. I mean, I went off my usual with Brady Martin, giving him 5 stars, even though there's not a chance in hell the Ottawa Senators will get him. But 4.5 stars for Victor Eklund. He's a pretty complete package, and I can't wait to see what he does in the SHL. Any team that drafts him is going to be happy with the guy they got.
And you are able to find all 50 of our NHL draft prospect profiles available on YouTube. Coming in at number 7 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings, I'm going to go ahead and say it. The most polarizing, volatile player at the top end of this draft from the Brandon Wheat Kings, it's Roger McQueen.
Yep, Roger McQueen, an absolute unit out there on the ice. We'll get into his weight and height later, but with the Brandon Wheat Kings, only 17 games this year. There's clearly some injury concerns there that we'll dive into after the stats. But in the time that he did play, 10 goals, 10 assists, 20 points, finished a +8. And he did manage to get some time in the playoffs, 3 playoff games with a 1 goal there. But Ross, unfortunately, the big thing with Roger McQueen is his injury concerns, and he's had back issues. Brandon Piller, not a chiropractor. I'm not about to pretend like I understand it was like 4 or 5 different ways that he described the back injury he had. First he said it was this, then he said it was this, then he said a different doctor said it was this. I have no clue. But serious back injuries for a guy that's 6'5", 192. That's what EP has him at. I'm not sure what we got him at after the combine, but
198, gaining weight.
Okay, there you go. Back issues at this age for a guy that big. Oh, man, that is a serious concern that could really have a long-term effects, and that could derail a guy's career.
There's just not players like him that come around often. 6'5" with handles like that. His highlight reel, his control of the puck is outrageous. So there's good reason why scouts and NHL teams are watching closely to see how Roger McQueen looks. At the NHL scouting combine, he says he's feeling 100%. He came to Winnipeg in the middle of the season to see a specialist in back injuries, and apparently was misdiagnosed originally with the way things went. So he says he's feeling 100%, and we'll see if a team gets gold. If he falls out of the top 5 and stays healthy and continues to develop, this is going to be an absolute steal. 5th is the highest he's ranked among our scouts. 5th by Craig Button, 5th by Locked On NHL Prospects, as well as Elite Prospects. Bob McKenzie had him at 7th on his midterm rankings. Corey Pronman has him at 9, Scott Wheeler at 11, and McKean's Hockey at 12th overall. He's one of the oldest players in the draft. October birthday, turned 18 already, played the full season like that. He's a right shot centerman. And Billsy, like his highlight reel, we talk about them all the time, some of them better than others. This guy is sick at hockey. Like, to me, no doubt top 5 skilled player in the draft.
Agreed. Yeah. So let's get in, now that we've covered the back injury stuff, let's get into what this kid does on the ice, because it's very impressive. Ross, he had 4 goals in his first game of the season. I mean, talk about getting off to a good start in your draft year. He's got a wicked shot. He can pick top corners with ease. He has smooth hands. EP says he battles hard and is constantly involved defensively. Their one concern is sometimes he hangs on to the puck a little bit too long and gets swarmed. But make no mistake, the skill and the upside of Roger McQueen is there, no doubt. I haven't seen a single scout or person doubt his potential on the ice and the skill that he has. For me, Ross, you gotta be a team that already has kind of a gem in your prospect pipeline, or you have depth in your prospect pool to take this kind of risk. Like, if I'm the Boston Bruins, I know they could use some help up the middle, but I'm not drafting a guy like Roger McQueen just because of those injury concerns. And you know what? I hope I'm seriously wrong and he has a long, healthy career and lights it up and is an absolute stud. I hope so. But if you're looking to really bolster your prospect pipeline and make maybe a bit of a safer pick, this is not the route you go.
No. The range for where we believe Roger McQueen could end up in his NHL career, I mean, you've got Elite Prospects saying shades of Evgeny Malkin.
But what about also shades of Tage Thompson?
Sure. Yeah.
I think that one makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. The shot's not where Tage Thompson's is, obviously, but he handles the puck almost as well.
Got a good shot, though, but maybe not Tage Thompson level.
That's one of the best in the league. But
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of it, this could be Logan Brown 2.0.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know if I would go there, but yeah, I see what you're getting at. Like
Logan Brown was sick in junior.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, we were pretty stoked about him.
Right?
Yeah. So
Hey, no risk, no fun. That's what a team's going to say to each other right before they go up and take Roger McQueen, who very well could end up as the best player in this draft.
Nah, I don't know if he could be better than Michael Misa. Better than Michael Misa?
He might
be. Or
be.
Matthew Schaefer?
Those are the only two players, or actually, they have on Elite Prospects in their draft guide, which is a must get. They've got Roger McQueen as the third highest ceiling in this draft.
I agree with that.
Behind Schaefer and Porter Martone.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Wow. Where, just quickly, if you're able to check, where do they have Michael Misa in the highest ceiling?
4th.
Oh, okay.
One spot back. James Hagen's at 5, just to conclude that one. They have McQueen as the 5th best transitional forward, the 2nd best power forward behind Brady Martin, and the 4th best hands in the draft. So all the skills are there. It's just the uncertainty that might scare teams away from drafting him as high as he very well should go.
What do you think the lowest he's drafted is, Ross?
I'll say 10 to Anaheim.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't fall out of the top 10. If he does, I mean, this is going to be national news.
Yeah. I feel like that's fair. I'm trying to look at teams that have the depth to do it in their prospect pipeline, like Philly.
Anaheim does.
Yeah, Anaheim certainly does. Philly does. Buffalo does. Anaheim does. I got him pegged as going to one of those 3 teams.
Okay. You don't think a team jumps at him earlier? I guess Philly's 6th overall, so that would be fairly high. But you don't think Nashville might take a swing at 5?
No, if Nashville takes Roger McQueen over Caleb Desnoyers, I would be absolutely shocked.
Okay. Well, what if Desnoyers is not on the board? Huh?
I would also be surprised there. So that would be a double surprise for me. But if Desnoyers, man, I struggle saying his name, Desnoyers, isn't there, then maybe. But Nashville's prospect pipeline is thin,
and they've got 3 picks though in the first round.
Yeah, no, I don't see it.
Okay, that would be an aggressive move from Barry Trotz, and we'll see where things end up. Roger McQueen, Pilsy, your Sens stars.
I gave him 4 stars, Ross. I am concerned about the back injury. And again, what do I know? Not much. People watching this show know that. But that concern really, really hits me. And there's a handful of guys in and around that area that I like so much that I would be so much more comfortable going to bed at night being like, okay, we got him. We're feeling good about that. But again, I don't get it twisted. I see the skill. I see the upside. I believe in him, and I hope he has a great career.
He is so fun. Go watch his highlights right now. Roger McQueen with an average ranking of 7.71 comes in at, you guessed it, 7 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings. You can find all 50 of our prospect profiles free and available on YouTube. All right, Pilsy, any thoughts on today's show? Busy one. Love a little news to start a Thursday episode.
Absolutely a busy one. No, let's just have a nice clean show and wrap this up. I don't have any final thoughts.
All right. Well, we will talk to you tomorrow on Locked On Senators, where we're deep into the top 10. We're wrapping up our rankings earlier than the draft, of course, because we want to have a couple days to discuss our lists, where we think the Sens are going to go, what best case, what worst case scenario could be. And Steo still has work to do. So hopefully we get more of these breaking news shows as we approach the busiest time in the National Hockey League schedule. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.